All right, welcome back to the Life on Purpose podcast. We are going to keep this rolling on the kind of athletic world topics. We had Amanda Maisie on last week, and now we have my other very dear friend, Jess McCadam, on today to
Yay.
talk about all kinds of different things, right? So
Yeah.
I called you because you can kind of come at this from a few different angles with all the different aspects of the sports world you live in, from being
Yeah.
a college athlete, you and your
Mhm.
husband being in the NFL, your
Yep.
brother, associate head coach, the
Yep.
Miami.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
new
Yep.
promotion. That's right.
Yay.
Um, and then also now strength and conditioning in the college football world, all kinds of stuff. So you have a
Yeah.
very, very unique perspective on this kind of world that we live in and operate in. So there's probably a bunch of different topics that we can dive into here, but I'm so glad that you decided to do this with me and we'll see where it goes.
I know. I'm so excited. I feel like we've been talking about doing this for a while, with just throughout the years. And so I'm so excited to be here. Yeah.
Well, because I was going to have you and Kevin on after Josh and I did that
Yeah.
episode on youth sports. So
Yep.
maybe
Yep.
that's a good place to start because Kevin's path to college athletics and then the NFL was not a traditional path,
Yeah.
right? So there
Right.
was no kind of AAU. There was none of that. So why don't
Nope.
we start there? Why don't you tell me
Yeah.
Kevin's path, like his background, and we'll go from there.
Yep, perfect. So we always joke that God totally had both of our lives like going in like simultaneously so similarly because he grew up with his mom was like the director of a rec center. And so he would, go to school and then he would go to the rec after school every day. He played all the things with whoever showed up at the rec, and that was his mom's, whole world.
Right.
So on the flip side, my papa, like in New Orleans, ran the New Orleans recreation department. So we were kind of on the other side of the country,
Right.
doing the same things. Like even when we moved away from Louisiana, we would go back every summer
Yeah.
and play with our cousins on all my papa's like teams in the summer and stuff. So we were still like, super involved, even when we moved states or whatever. But for Kevin, he kind of grew up in that rec center, just daily. I mean, even he still talks to some of his counselors or coaches that
Yeah.
he would say that still that he has relationships with, but and his mom was kind of adamant, like he played flag football a lot
Right.
or was at the rec center, but kind of organized. And then as he got older, he would kind of play in these adult leagues.
Hmm.
But she didn't really want him playing tackle football till he was way older,
Right.
So he didn't really start playing until his junior year in high school, which now is like
It's unheard
crazy.
of.
Yes, now it's like unheard of, because everything feels like it's so accelerated. And it would be I'd be lying if I said that every parent didn't feel like sometimes they were trying to keep up with the Joneses. Like we doing enough? Are we doing this? Are we doing this? And so his story is super rare,
Right, because
and then
what
he
he
just kind
started
of
playing high school football junior year and then
yep, yep,
drafted after his senior year.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So he kind of, again, even through college had a really like kind of, again, I know I'm always like throwing faith in there, but it's such a big part of our story. It just,
Yeah.
you could look back and see God's hand on his life because he played all the things like in high school still. So he played baseball, he played basketball, he played football. And then he had, some offers coming out of, as a quarterback out of high school.
Hmm.
So he ended up going to Colorado State as a quarterback,
This is
but
funny.
his
I did
dad,
not know this part.
yes,
I've known
yes.
you for
So this
over a
is like,
decade and I don't know this part.
yes, right? Isn't it crazy? Some of these like little things that like looking back, you're just like, that was
Yeah.
so meant to be. But he had lost his dad.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and when he went away to school, he got injured. He broke his collarbone. He was just having a really hard time with, dealing with grief and his mom was home. He has an
Mhm.
older brother, but he just really was kind of just not finding his footing there at Colorado State, So he ended up coming back home to be with his mom, and he went to junior college at a little a junior college in San Diego called Grossmont Junior College. And he'd play there, and then he'd sometimes go help coach his high school team, like on the side, essentially.
Yeah.
But he was playing quarterback, playing DB, and like returning kickoff and punts. I don't know. He was doing all the things. And he, out of junior college, he had one offer to play at Virginia Tech. And that's kind of what got him over there. And Virginia Tech had just come out of the national championship. I mean, their quarterback was Mike Vick, who is like the best quarterback in the country,
right?
And arguably one of the greatest ever, and he's like, wait. I have one offer, but like literally,
but it's Virginia Tech.
Yeah, but it's Virginia Tech. This is crazy. So him and his buddy drove his dad's old beat up pickup truck across the country and moved him into Virginia Tech. He's like, it was my only option, but looking back, it was totally like just perfectly all these orchestrated steps, just by God to get him in the right spot. And so he was only really at Virginia Tech for 2 years. He played DB there, not quarterback. So they've kind of flipped him.
Right.
And then he was drafted to the Falcons, in the fifth round of, I guess it was what draft is that, 2002. Which seems like forever ago, because it is, I guess. But yeah, so just like a crazy, and it was kind of like a pipeline there for Virginia Tech kids, players, because we had like Keon Carpenter and Mike Vick, and then Kevin, and then another one, D'Angelo Hall, who came after him. We were all there together.
Right.
So it was really like a really special, sweet time. The guy that drafted him essentially ended up being like a father figure to him, which again is a whole nother like story within a story,
And I think what's interesting, and the reason I brought up that story, was because of that conversation Josh and I had about kind of, where coaches come from in if you are a coach, kind of, college level, NFL, whatever, you kind of see this youth sports world a little bit differently. And I guess your story is one that I use a lot when I'm talking to people, that, Kevin, he didn't have to do all that crazy intense stuff from 5 years old to 18 years old to get recruited out of high school. It doesn't have to be. Everybody's path looks a little bit differently.
Right.
So, taking a step back and saying, all right, I don't have to spend all this money. I don't have to get crazy on the sidelines screaming at coaches. I don't have to, I don't have to do all these things necessarily to get my coach or my kid to the next level. And he's kind of proof of that, and, you come at it from both the faith-filled aspect, but also just kind of like the God-given talent aspect. Like, right, there's so many factors that kind of play a part in that. So you guys have 4 children, and all very active in athletics. How do you guys approach that because you played college volleyball, right? And then Kevin, college football, NFL. So how do you guys approach your children in kind of this youth athletics? Because they're very talented. They're talented boys. They love sports, but how do you guys as a family operate?
So it's interesting. This question is awesome, because in the time that we transitioned from, we used to be in Morgantown with you guys, like in
that's
West
where
Virginia.
we met.
That's where we met, and so then we transitioned here to Houston, which and this is absolutely, I talk to our great friend Nikki Goodnow about this all the time. I'm like, this is not a knock at Morgantown whatsoever. Morgantown is like a gift of heaven on earth for sure. But sports specifically youth sports in Texas is like something out of a movie. Like the movies
level.
Are true.
Friday Night Lights on steroids.
It is a hotbed for just so much rich talent, and people move here. They move their
Right.
families here just for that. So at first it was a little bit of a culture shock for us, because
Mhm.
even though, like you said, we kind of come from that world, even both of us growing up, it was like it is so intense and fast paced here,
Yeah.
that it's really hard not to get caught up in we got to do more, we got to go train with this guy, we got to go play for this team, we got to travel all over the place. It's hard, it's really
Right.
hard not to get caught up in it, especially when your kids love it too,
Right.
so you're like, ah, gosh,
You're
like,
trying to balance, but
yes,
balance
right?
something that, they want to be part of something, but then, like for us in particular, my
Yep.
biggest question is, do they love it enough to give up what we are going to be giving up as a family?
Yes.
So we probably come at it a little bit differently because I wouldn't say that my kids love it as much as your kids.
Yes.
Right. So,
Yes. Right.
we balance it a little bit differently than probably you do. Your kids are animals as far as like
No,
they are
no, no.
intense athletes.
Yes. No, it's
I
so
mean,
funny. But no, but it's, and it's funny because I
they are
love that.
beasts on the court, on the field.
Oh no.
Yes, they
Total
are.
Mason will be beaming right now as you're saying this, thinking that, yeah, no, I'm just
Play
kidding.
that part for him later when we're done. Tell him I said
Yeah, right, exactly.
I'll be his
Um,
favorite.
but it's funny because I love that you said it like that, because that's exactly what we kind of had to talk about. Like, number one, it has to come, like, is it me and my desire? Like, am I
Right.
living vicariously through them? I think Kevin's biggest fear is that they feel like they have to be who he was. And he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
God did not fashion you to be me. So
Right.
my expectations for you are not anything to do with what I did. Like, you
Mhm.
don't have to try to fulfill any expectations that you think the
Right.
world is has of you. Like, you're supposed to run your own race, and you have your own giftings and stuff. But also, just that most guys that we know, as too, with all your
Yeah.
players, like, to really make it to those levels, like college and
And
play
beyond.
it, yes, and
Yeah.
beyond, it really has to be this, like, innate, like, it's in them to do it,
Right.
not their parents, not their anybody else. It has to come from them,
Yeah. And it's
that.
interesting because we have had athletes in the past where you're like, you don't want to be here. This is something that you would
Yeah,
kind of push.
yeah,
And you can tell the
yep,
difference. You can tell the difference between the ones who have it in them and want to be there.
yep,
It's just kind of this innate like intensity. And then the
yep,
ones who are just like, you felt like maybe they're talented, but then there's
yep,
that extra piece, right? That
right,
they
yep,
want to be there. They want to keep pushing themselves. There's that kind of competitiveness that,
yep,
even some that do make it to that level maybe don't last as long because it wasn't really there to begin with. That
right.
desire to, because it does, I mean, you have to have kind of this mental fortitude that, again, I will never understand because I was not,
Yeah,
you and I are different in that sense. I was not
no,
competitive. Like I played to play with my friends in high school, but I was like, I was relieved when it was done.
right, no,
Like,
right. I
which is,
love it.
which again, when I was talking to Amanda last week, people think it's funny that I ended up marrying into athletics
Yes,
because it was like, I
no, but yes, that's
couldn't
why he
leave it,
needed you.
whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly why he needed you to be like that, because sometimes you're like, when two people are like exactly the same like that, it could
Oh.
be crazy. Kevin was laughing because sometimes I'll go into his office before we have a game, and I'll leave him like a little sticky note on his
Yeah.
planner or whatever. And I'm like, like, love you, whatever. But I'm like, I really love you more if you win. Could you just win? Don't come home if you don't win. But I don't, of course, don't mean it. But that, like, you're
That
like, it's just,
competitiveness.
yes, you just,
Yeah.
But I remember, like, my sister and I sitting at our house in Ohio. We had moved away from New Orleans, and like, my brother would be in the driveway
Yeah.
and my mom would be out there with a broom, because he got to be too tall and too strong to
He
like,
couldn't block his shots.
she couldn't block him anymore. So she'd stand and hit him with this broom and, or guard him essentially.
Right.
And I'm like, I still giggle thinking maybe our neighbors thought we were crazy, but that was his,
Yeah.
he was so driven like that it was like, he always was like, all I do is think about if I'm not working out or training right now, somebody else is, and they're better than me.
Yeah.
And so that always was,
Mhm.
but yeah, like you said, juggling the youth sports thing, I think ours similarly to you guys came down to like, what do we prioritize? Our life is based on God, family, and then all the things after that. So how
Right.
do we make sure our kids know that? So,
Mhm.
we do our best not to miss church. We do our best not to put family things first, even if that means sometimes they miss, our little guy had to, miss like a football practice because he went to his brother's, senior night or whatever, right? Like
So
just some of those. Yeah.
I think to change this, and I read somewhere, someone I think posted on one of my posts on my podcast page about kind of the intensity of youth sports and kind of how crazy it is, and that's something that they would like to change. And I
Yeah.
think it takes a lot of people doing those things to get it to change, meaning I've got these very clear-cut boundaries. This is not
Yep.
going to be everything. It's going to be something, but it's not going to be everything. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to miss a practice to go to church. I'm going to miss a practice to go to my sister's graduation or, what
Yep.
have you. It doesn't matter, family event.
Yeah.
um, to be able to kind of say, look, there has to be balance in this world, and it
Yeah.
cannot be so intense that your 15-year-old is burnt out before he even gets to his senior year of high
Yes.
school, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So you're just
Exactly.
like killing them. You're just
Yes, for sure. And I think I read it somewhere one time because I was like, reading something about this topic. And they called it the race to nowhere. And you're like,
100%. What's the
right?
percentage? What is
Yeah.
the percentage of children that go from like 5 to 18 who make it to the highest levels of
Yeah.
athletics?
Very
It's
little, right?
very minimal. And again, it's
Yep.
those intangible things that you cannot measure that will
Yep.
get you there.
Totally.
So I
Yep.
cannot reiterate it enough.
Yes. A
Period in the
hundred percent.
story.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And yep. And the amount of, time, money, all the
right.
things, it's, of course there's the great side of it. Like, again,
Yep.
it goes back to like our profession where it's,
Yeah.
it's really about relationships, so
Oh,
yes, you make
100%.
some great friends and those families become like your own, your own family, like away from your own, so
Mhm.
there's obviously, teaches your kids lots and lots of things, but yeah, where is that balance where
Right.
it's taking away more than it's like giving based on your priorities,
Right. Because you want
Yeah.
those lessons to outweigh kind of like the
Yeah.
crazy side of it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the
No.
spot, some coming from both like the coaching world. So your husband is a strength and conditioning coach at Houston.
Yep.
That was his career path after the NFL. Um, so again, you guys have come at this from multiple different perspectives. So what are some of these lessons that kind of these coaches' kids, um, slash athletes kids can learn? Like, what is it that, they can take from, what's the positive side of this
Yes.
world?
Yes. I love how you said the positive side because
Yeah.
there is such like positive, and I think we were just working on Coley's, our senior son's college, essay,
Don't you
and
cry. Don't
right,
cry.
it's so crazy. It's so crazy. But and we were talking about that. Whereas, when we moved here to Houston from West Virginia, our kids were devastated.
Yeah.
So was I. I was too. I was like, I was leaving all of you guys. I mean, as we talked
Yeah.
about on previous podcasts, as you guys
Okay,
did,
I just went through it too. I'm still kind of
you're like still
you're
fresh in it,
you're
right?
you're past it a little bit. I'm still fresh in that that
Yes, that's
departure.
exactly. It's so like
Yeah.
hard, such a weird time. And you're like, we had a really, really special group in Morgantown.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, our coffee group, as we call it on I
Yeah.
mean, you guys are like sisters to me, like, so it was a really a special crew and hard to leave,
Yes.
because so I was sad, the kids were sad. Kevin had come here 6 months before us. I mean,
Mhm.
I know you know all this, but
Yeah.
and really I didn't even care about anything here in Houston at the time. I was just worried about the kids. He
Yeah.
came and he got the house and he did all the things, and I didn't even do anything besides move us
Yeah.
and worry about them. Um so it was really hard. As you very well know, you're in like
Right.
the thick of it right this second, and the kids are mad on one hand, but then they like know it's part of the deal on the other hand, and
Right.
they're scared to go to new schools and different places and start over, and all the big emotions that come with it. But I was just talking to Coley about this, that when that like little perspective switch happens and you're like, okay, I have to think of this as like, I get to do this. I get to move to a new place. I get to meet new friends. I get to use football as a way to glorify God and to build relationships with people and our players. Um, I get to use this to live, essentially, to
Right.
go, to see the world. And in that regard, you're like, it really is a tremendous blessing. I think of all the people that go to work
Yeah.
every day and they don't love what they do. And how awesome that we like get to, because I think you talked about this too with Amanda, that like how you really have to make the decision, like this is we did early on, like we're gonna do this as a family.
Yeah.
I'm equally as like, sometimes I laugh because I'll be like, well, we played in Atlanta, we played in Carolina. I'm like, I don't play anything. But
No,
but we
it's the same thing. Our players, right? They're our players because you get so invested in
right.
people and
Yeah.
your team. And
Yes.
again, I think it becomes easier for them to transition and easier for you to transition when you you start to solidify yourself in this new kind of little family, right? Which is your
Yes.
team, your new
Right.
university, all the new traditions, and you get to meet all these new people and see all these new things. And if
Yes.
you're in a different conference, play different teams that you're not familiar with.
Right.
And so I think it's kind of that's when the shift happens, is when it all kind of revolves around the new people that you get to kind of imprint on your heart, and
Yes.
like the
Yes.
team atmosphere. So that was kind of, again, we're still in the thick of it with these
Right.
lessons and our big move, but there is that part of it where that they're going to come out of it with just a little bit more strength too, because they did something really hard. And
Yes.
I know, like,
Yes.
Josh's message, especially like last year, like, do hard things. That's where all the
Yes.
growth comes from. Like, do hard things. We're
100%.
not getting out of life without doing hard things.
That's right. That's right.
Um,
Yep.
and
For
so,
sure.
if you can kind of help them along a little bit, guide
Yes.
them, and kind of, support them through that process, they're going to come out of it on the other end feeling kind of, all right, I can do this. I can do
Yeah.
anything.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And more prepared, for like Mia just
Yeah.
went a couple of years ago, 2 years now, but went to college. She went back to Morgantown. That's
Yeah.
how much she loved it there, and it felt,
Right.
um, but she would have not been as prepared to like
No.
go anywhere across the country if she hadn't gone through the hard stuff of moving and really having to be thrown out of her comfort zone. So it
Right.
really does. You're right. It does. It
Yeah.
fashions them in a way that's very unique. Um,
Right. And I think when they're kind of on the inside of these teams,
yeah.
right, where they
Yep.
become very attached to these athletes and these
Yes.
coaches and kind of the whole family, right? You become very, very, very attached and very
Yeah.
invested, right?
Yes.
And so you kind of see where somebody needs to be lifted up, or you can celebrate their wins, but you can also, lift somebody up when things aren't going so well. And we know, like,
Yeah.
if you're in this business long enough, you're going to have some lowest of lows, and then you're going to have the highest of highs, and you've got to be able to, kind of exist in that world of not crumbling,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
kind of leads me to the next thing I really wanted to dig in with you. Football is not all Kevin has done. And you said using football to glorify God, he stepped away at one point to
Yes.
minister.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
talk to me about that, because I remember sitting with you. We were at Chick-fil-A, our kids were young, pretty young.
Yes.
And
Yep.
you had told us you guys had decided to step away from college athletics and Kevin was going to minister. So talk me through this.
Yeah.
What was that like? Why? All of it. All of it.
Yes. Yes. So it still kind of makes me like tear up a little bit because so um so backstory a tiny bit with that was like, and this story has nothing to do with me. All has to do with Kevin and God. But I kind of grew up like always having this. I just had like a pull towards Jesus like my whole life. Like I literally cannot remember a time when I didn't believe in God and just like
Hmm.
want to like strive to live like a faithful life. So not meaning by any means that I was like perfect or even knew what all the things were, right? But
Okay, so let me stop you there. Let me ask you this. Was this something was God, church, faith a center of your family life, or was this something very personal?
yes.
Okay.
So it was definitely a big part of our family. In New
Okay.
Orleans, you kind of grew up, everyone was Catholic. You
Yeah.
were just Catholic because you were supposed to be Catholic, which is awesome. But I think that did, two great parents that like, we went to all the things, right? CCD,
Yeah.
church, communion, all the things, but it really like planted in me like desire from a young age to seek to know more about, wait, like
Okay.
who's this God I'm learning about? Who's this Jesus?
Sure.
So I really had like I really feel like the Holy Spirit kind of like was just filled me early in my life to really want to know more about who Christ was and all these things. So I grew up in a Christian, household, and then always chose to be that a huge part of my life
Hmm.
for all time, essentially.
Right.
So
Sure.
when I met Kevin, he was not a believer. He had lost his dad. He
Mm.
was really mad at God. He didn't know what he didn't really know what he thought.
Yeah.
And I think in my own kind of, you know, walk with the Lord, I when we got married, I didn't even really think about it then that it might be one day something that was like hard when we had kids or whatever, that we weren't equally on the same page.
Right. Because how do you raise your family
Yep.
then? Sure.
Yep. Right. How do you
Right.
raise? So I just don't think I was like, I don't know, just not mature enough maybe to even like grasp that concept
Yeah.
early on.
When
So
you love somebody, kind of clouds those
yes,
those
right.
things.
Exactly. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just
Yeah.
love him so much.
We'll
Like,
deal with
oh
this later.
yes, like whatever. That's exactly
Right.
really truly so
Yeah.
similar to that. So yeah, so I really after we got married, because again, funny, like I graduated, he got drafted, went ahead 2 years earlier than me, and so I
Yeah.
was still at Virginia Tech. Then as soon as I graduated after those 2 years, we got engaged the next like literally 2 weeks after my graduation, and then we got married 2 months after that because he was about to start mini camp
Yeah.
and then a whole season and my brother's basketball season, and like we didn't even know when we could get married, so we're like we'd already been dating about 4 years, 3 4 years. We're like
Right. Let's just
we're
do
just gonna
it.
get married. Yep. So which I'm super indecisive by nature, not indecisive about getting married, surest thing I've ever done in my
Yeah.
life, but like flowers, food, all that. So getting married fast for me was like a good thing. I was like,
Yes. Yeah, I
let's
can
just
see
do it. I
that.
don't
I can
you
see
know
that.
so yeah, but so I didn't really hit me. I think you were like and, and
Oh, hold on. I
and I
think.
was like, oh my gosh, this
Oh, hold on. We're glitching. We're glitching. Hold
need
on
to
just
pause.
a second. Okay. All
Glitching
right. Now we're good. Now we're good.
better.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Um, I didn't even think then, until I got pregnant with Mia. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happens if he doesn't believe in God? What happens if we raise a family and I want my kids to go to church and he doesn't want to, or I
Yeah.
want them to know Jesus, but he doesn't. And so these things were started and these were in my mind. So
Yeah.
I would write journals. I would pray in my closet. I would pray in the car. I would go to all these wives Bible studies and all these
Mhm.
things. I'd ask for prayer for him, like without him even knowing really I was doing this.
Mhm.
And I would drag him to couple studies. We had this awesome, these best friends of ours in Atlanta, Matt and Betsy Stewart, and we would go with them to the Falcons couple study. And Kevin would be like, I'll just come because you guys are like my wife, obviously, and friends. And I like
Yeah.
I love like the people who are here, but I'll just come, whatever. But so fast forward, he finishes playing. We keep kind of going to these, studies here and there with whatever team. Um, and we get to the end of his playing days, and we're like in our house in Ohio that we had, built by our family, thinking like everything would end here. And I think he was a little bit lost,
Hmm.
like, what do I do now? Everything I've ever worked for, all I wanted to do my whole life is play. And now it's all gone. Like, who am I? I don't even know who I am.
I think yes. And I think a lot
Right?
of that like self-exploration, faith exploration happens during those moments. And that's why I don't think any of these instances are bad things for people traditionally.
Yeah.
Um, because, and this happens to athletes, this happens to coaches, this happens to people who, commit their lives to a craft
Yeah.
or a profession, a sport or whatever, and it ends very rapidly. And then you have kind of this hole you have to fill.
Yes.
And then that kind of opens up the door to exploring all kinds of different feelings and, what am I going to fill it with?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Because you guys, went through that similarly, like not all the way out of basketball, but like those thoughts of like this abruptly ended,
Yes.
and like what on earth do I do now? And who even am I? Like, and
And I'm
yeah.
going to let you finish Kevin's path, and then I will share that story
Yes.
because you have a big part of that story. So,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, I'm gonna cry again. I'm just gonna cry all week, But but yeah, so he really came to that end of like himself
Yeah.
essentially, and was like, you know, um, what am I gonna do now? So then he decided that we would go back. He was like, babe, I really think I want to get into coaching. I think it was for him, he was like the next thing that could feel kind of like playing did,
Yeah.
and for him, he's always been, whether he's been following God or not, he's always been like servant minded, like
Right.
loves to pour into others, or so for him, he I think that was a big thing. I'll give back to just how the game's given to me.
Yeah.
So we went back to Virginia Tech because we're like, that's where we know,
Hmm.
lots of people were still there, coaching staff wise, still the same. So it was kind of an easy transition.
Right.
So his first kind of, coaching gig essentially was back there at Virginia Tech. There was a one guy there who kind of like would speak into his life a little bit with some faith things, whatever. Like, once in a while, one time he sent home like these little Bibles for the kids, things like that. So kind of started speaking into his life. And then fast forward, we get the job at, his first like big coaching job at West Virginia.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we'll move to West Virginia. At the time, we're like, you don't even really know like what it's like there, And there was
No.
always a big rivalry, West
Yeah.
Virginia, Virginia Tech. So our friends were like, traitors.
Wait, what are you doing?
Yes, like, what do you mean you're going to Morgantown? So
Yeah.
so that was kind of like a funny turn of events. But when we got to West Virginia, there were two people that were literally like heaven sent.
Mhm.
One was Josh Shinoga. He was the director of the FCA
Yeah.
at the time. And then Sean Frazier. He was the pastor at Calvary Chapel in Morgantown. And literally, God used them to change Kevin's entire life. And then in turn, change our whole families.
Hmm.
So he just kind of, they would just stop by his office, and like because Sean was kind of still really intertwined with FCA and Pastor Sean, and so they would come talk to him, whatever, just really build relationships
Yeah.
again, just that relationship
Right.
building. And then Kev came home one day and was like, babe, maybe we'll try going to church. Now granted, this was like after all these years of me just like literally I begging. I felt like that's like, God, please change his heart. I just need him to
Right.
know you, Lord, like all these things. And he's like, I want to try going to maybe this church, Calvary Chapel. We'll just try it, right? And I'm in my head, I'm like this
You
is the
didn't want to
greatest
show
day of
on your
my
face
life.
like how excited you were.
Yeah, and then we literally went one time and never left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And okay, so let me ask you a personal question. So did
Mhm.
you feel like during that period where, faith was a huge part of your life, but not his, did you feel like you needed the physical building? Was that something that you needed, or was that something
Good
that you
question.
did for him to kind of build? And maybe you didn't even need anything for him, but I always find it
Yeah.
really, I find it interesting how people have different perspectives on this. Like, is it the physical building, the physical gathering, or
Hmm.
can you have that without it?
Yes. This is an awesome question. Um, because literally, actually, I feel like this is a God thing right now, and it's going to make me tear up because we talked a lot about this exact thing when we went from when Kevin left football,
Right.
went to on staff at church, but then when let me get rid of that. Can you still see me? Let me
Yep.
see.
Yep. I can see it.
Um, yeah, okay, perfect. And then when he decided like he felt like the Lord was calling him back into football, so leaving
Mhm.
church and going back to football,
Right.
we talked about that it just because our physical building, the church building changed, our
Right.
ministry did not. That our building was now maybe the weight room or the football field or wherever it was, but our heart was still to, you know, teach people about Jesus essentially,
Right.
you know? So yeah, do I see the benefit in going to the actual building? 100%, right? You're you know, the called the body of Christ, right?
Right.
Is the church. So it's
Mhm.
important. But I do think that it's not just going on Sunday and checking the box. Like went to church, you
Oh,
know.
yes, completely. Which is
Yeah.
again why this is a question that I like to dig in with people because
Yes.
I guess of my own personal feelings and my own
Yeah.
personal kind of, I hate the word journey, it's so weird, but
No, right. Yeah.
whatever, like path through. Um, but because okay, so let's finish kind of his story. So he
Yes,
left
of course.
football and ministered for how long? 2 years?
Yes.
A couple years, and
Yep.
then was
So
called back
yep,
into
like two
football.
years.
Okay.
Yep. And then went back into football. Yep.
And, it seemed to me, just watching from the outside, again, we had a very tight group. We still do. We're just all kind of in
Yes.
different places. Again,
Please.
this world we live in, we kind of all just scatter. Um, but it seemed like those 2 years were kind of necessary to solidify that for him to where he felt like, okay, I can now be fully invested in something else because that hole I filled that hole and I can go give back in a different way, right? And use football and the God-given talents that he has to give back in a different way. Because we
Yep.
all know that sports in general are filled with young men and women who come from backgrounds where you need that guidance. And there are not
Yep.
always a lot of people there to kind of fill that need.
Yeah.
You see it across the board. You see it in the news. You see it in the world we operate in. Not everybody has had as blessed of a life as maybe you and I have had.
Yes.
Um,
1000%.
so I get again, the way that I saw it is stepping away and stepping back into football was his way of giving in a different way,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
for sure. And yep. And he would tell you 100% that if he hadn't, before he came to Christ and then went to work at church full time, he was using football differently.
Hmm.
You know, like um he would not be the same coach, you know, and
Right.
pastor that he is now if he hadn't stepped away and just been refined, you
Yeah.
know, and then went back with a totally new, a totally new mindset or a totally new direction, like spirit
Yeah.
led direction. You know what I mean?
I feel like his foundation is different because
100%.
again, and something else you see um throughout, the athletics world, and it doesn't really matter at what level,
Yeah.
is the ego can sometimes take over, right? To
Yes.
where then there is no room for anything else because that ego
Yep.
is just so big, and you can
Yep.
tend to destroy yourself or destroy others if you don't have something else there. And
Yeah.
that's something that Josh and I talk about quite a bit. Like, you know, you again, you see it in the news
Yep.
with alcohol issues, or
Yes.
like, because it is such a stress-filled business, the stress is here. Like it
Yes.
is an immense amount of pressure on these athletes, these coaches, administration, the universities, um, NFL teams, NBA teams, etc., because
Yep.
there's a lot at stake, right? And so
Right.
that pressure is immense. If you do
Yes.
not have faith, family, and healthy habits, right?
Yes. Yes.
You got to
Yep.
have those healthy habits.
Yep.
It can destroy you. It can
Yeah.
absolutely destroy you. That ego will take over. The unhealthy habits will take over. And again, you see it across the board, which is again why you need people like Kevin in these businesses who have been able to step away, fill that hole, come back, and then, like you said, pour into people a different way, maybe. I
Yeah.
don't even know,
Yeah.
how to even articulate that, what I'm trying to get across there. But I think that's why, at least in our circles, and I know, across the board, I think you guys are so respected in that sense that it's such a beautiful thing to watch and such a beautiful thing to see. Such a
Chaos.
beautiful thing
We're
to be a part of, right?
yes.
Because we get to be the benefactors of that message too.
Yes, absolutely. And just like you said, where we have all these guys, that you love and would do anything for to mentor you, like you and Amanda talked about last week. Like, how cool is it that we get to be a part of their when they get married? Kevin's
Kevin's
married.
married some of
Yes,
these.
he's
Yeah.
married like multiple of our players. We get to be a part of their life like that. Then they have babies, just like you guys said last week. Like, we want them to know that we don't measure how we feel about them based on whether they win or lose, because that's what it feels like, right? Our business, our livelihood
Yeah.
essentially is based on,
Win
whether
or
we can
loss.
win or not. And
Yeah.
so we want them, we want them to
That
know that,
can't be
like,
the only thing they're worried about.
right, that's
Right?
right,
It's a
like,
part of what they worry about. It cannot be the only
yes,
thing, right? They
yes,
have other things going on in their lives that need to be
yes.
tended to.
Right, exactly. And we yes, and we want them to know that they are, they are worthy even when football is done.
Hmm.
That yeah, and it's funny because I think I've talked to you about this before, that term of like kind of being like soft because you're a Christian athlete. We talk a lot about that, and I hate that term. I
Yeah.
hate that assumption because I'm like, I feel like you should be even more like, your effort and attitude and the way you work
Right.
should be even greater because of who you're representing.
Right.
um but we talked to our guys a lot about that. Like, I care more about you as a person than I do about how you perform. And
Right.
although I know that performing and winning is exponentially big deal in this field, I mean, we get fired over it, so
Yeah.
it's like you said, that pressure weighs heavy upon them. But there's so much more than just that,
Right.
and
Yeah.
we're so grateful, like, that we get to, like, be a steward of, get to be a part of their journeys, as we don't like to
Right.
use.
Right. So I think the one thing that gets really complicated also is that everyone within a team does not have the same belief system. How do you weigh
Yep.
that, um, I guess, in an atmosphere like that?
Yeah, 100%.
Being
It's funny
respectful of
because
like other people's beliefs, but then being very solid in your own. That's always been something I think that's been tricky in this business. Well,
yes,
I guess life
yes,
in general, but especially kind of in this world.
yes, 100%. I think, I think maybe for us, it goes back to like the foundation of, we're called to love God, and love people,
Yeah.
so it's, I even like with watching my own husband's whole life be, transform, like before, like all my prayers be answered before my eyes. It wasn't because it was in God's timing, not my timing. So
Right.
like, my job isn't to go around like, my job's to love these people, that
Right.
that God, and through the way that we love people, or through our actions, it should match what we proclaim, where we don't even have to say anything, that people can just see by the way we live what we believe in, you know. Because yeah, I think I think I told you this. I had a funny question the other day. Someone was like, what, because we're on a new staff now at Houston,
Right.
so we had been with our previous staff for like 10 plus seasons, almost longer than that. And so now we're on a brand new staff of people,
Yeah.
and I forget the exact question, but that, you know, there is no comparison between the two staffs, because the previous staff blessed our lives in immeasurable fashions.
Right.
And the new staff has already begun to do that, So
Right.
again, we just feel like it's all a part of just God's hand over our life. That there, we're not saying like this staff versus that staff. We're just we couldn't be more grateful to be a part of the old staff, and we couldn't be more grateful to be a part of the new.
You can't even measure these things sometimes, because again, it goes back to people, and
Yeah.
people are
Right.
different on very basic levels.
Yes.
There's no way
Right.
to, there's no way to compare at all. And like I
Mm-mm.
said, it's similarly, we were on a staff for 16 years across two
Yeah.
universities, and then a new staff now, and you're getting to know people on a very different level. They operate differently. So you're learning things about them. They're learning things about you. And it's not a bad thing. Change is
Right.
not always, it doesn't always
Right.
have to be a bad thing. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. But, again, like
Yeah.
we've been blessed immeasurably from the lessons that we've taken from both situations so far. And I think that's the only
Yes.
thing that you can
Right.
really hope for, because again, that's how
Yeah.
this business operates. And it
Right.
is all about people and your relationships
Yes.
with people, and how
Yes.
again, give back. How can I give back? What can I do?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And really, like, we we watched you guys do that in the midst of what we knew was going on with your situation. And th- I mean, that makes me, sorry, that makes me
Yeah.
more emotional than I thought. But like, you guys walked through that season of life so graciously when you did not have to. Um, and watching the way that you guys really, just your family unit, just, you know, just like came together. It was just a really, in the midst of the fire, it was awesome to watch, and encouraging and inspiring. And we could see, like, I don't know, just your faith kind of moving through
Well,
that
and
trial.
you're gonna make me cry, because there's two parts. There's two avenues I want to take with this. Um, because again, and I think maybe I mentioned it with Amanda last week, there are parts of this business, and again, I think it felt like the world was watching. Maybe they weren't, but it felt like that.
Yeah.
Uh, us go through this fire, and you feel very isolated,
Yeah.
and you feel like, whew, you maybe like, how are we gonna get through this kind of situation? And
Yep.
what you guys did, our friends, you, Kevin, your family, our friend groups, our very close friends did for us in your prayers, and like praying for it. I don't think I've ever felt so prayed for in my life. I mean, pastors reaching out, you reaching out, Kevin reaching out. But the one thing that you did that I thought was brave, like anybody can pray for anybody, right? The one thing
Yes.
that you did to actually like show support was probably one of the bravest things I've ever seen in my life. On a funny scale. So you guys, we are our very first Big 12 conference game last season during this tumultuous, crazy, never seen anything like it shit show. Sorry,
Yeah.
but it was.
Yes.
Um, our very first game was against Houston.
Yeah.
And we all know the powerhouse that Houston is and Kelvin Sampson. I mean, the respect that, you know, that team has earned through how they play. Like we knew we were walking into a viper pit and that it was going to
Yes.
be tough given what we were kind of going through, working with, whatever. So you guys were just in the midst of changing staff. So your staff had been let go. You
Yep.
guys had been retained and we're starting with this new staff. Kevin, I believe, like had just signed a new contract with
Yeah.
this new staff. And you guys showed up at Houston and sat behind that bench to show support and love for my family. And I don't think that I've ever seen anybody do something like that. No, and not in this world. Not in
Yeah.
this world. And so if that's not a testament to you and how you've poured faith into our life, that was kind of that year, actually the last 4 years, but especially the last year, my faith
Yeah.
has grown exponentially because
Yeah.
my path to faith has been very confusing, probably similar to Kevin's,
Yeah.
given a loss. I lost
Yep.
my father when I was 11 years old to suicide.
Yep.
Kind of a very tumultuous childhood, a lot of confusion.
Yep.
I was born into a world where, so I was born in Oklahoma, where the Native American culture was very solid. And
Yeah.
so I actually, and this is another like crazy story. So I actually I'm a registered uh Cherokee. I'm a registered member of the Cherokee tribe. So
What?
my
I
mom
did
is my
not know that.
yes, no, this is a really crazy story. So my grandma's probably not gonna like me telling this story, but
Sorry,
so I
Grandma.
was born kind of into this background of like Native American traditions, which did
Hmm.
not include traditional church. So we had a
Right.
lot of like full blood Cherokees in our life. Like my dad had friends, that we were always around them. My grandmother used the Cherokee clinics for medical care, etc. So
Oh
that
my
was kind
gosh.
of my foundation. So we moved away
Yeah.
when I was 5. Um, my dad obviously had kind of mental health issues, ended up taking his own life when I was 11. So there's all these like this confusion
Yeah. Yeah.
around faith. And so we started going to church. My mom got remarried. We started going to church, but it always felt like I couldn't feel what people were telling me I should feel.
Yeah.
Like when I
Yeah.
was in church, I had all these questions and nobody could really answer them for me. And I wasn't finding them in this building, which is why I asked you earlier about do you have, is the building
Yes.
imperative, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and to this day, I still haven't found a home like
Yeah.
building.
Yep.
Um, so yes, there was all this kind of like, I'm not feeling what people are telling me I need to be feeling, um, like working in my life. But I think there was just these natural kind of like walls up
Yeah. Oh
because
yeah.
like there's so much hurt, you know,
Yes.
and confusion. But I think, like I said, it's when you're at rock bottom, which we were last year.
Yeah.
Gosh,
Yeah.
I didn't want to cry,
Yes. I
but
know.
and maybe not rock bottom, but you're just trying to get through and you're
Yeah.
just surrounding yourself with the people that you know are supporting you and trying to get you through. And like I said, you and Kevin were a huge part of that. And Angela and Nikki and Amanda
Yeah.
and Tabby and Taylor and our whole friend group. Um, it was I finally felt what I was supposed to be feeling, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
all these things happening around us that it can't be anything else,
Yeah.
it couldn't be
Yeah.
anything else. Um, so yeah.
Yes.
Darn it.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Awesome. So
No,
awesome.
I didn't want to cry, but
Yes.
I think it is kind of a testament to you living your faith instead of just showing up at the building on a Sunday and checking the box. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that. And I'm glad that that's the answer. Because again, like there were times where, and I don't know what's happening in churches, some churches these days, where it doesn't feel, some places don't feel super authentic. It feels very not
Yeah, for
authentic.
sure.
Like, and I don't know. I think you guys were very lucky in the home that you found in Morgantown. Um for sure, because I could see how, yeah, yes, I could see how it was working in your life.
Yeah, for sure. It was
Um,
um it was like a monumental God just used it really, just like he used Sean and Val, who Val is Sean's wife, and Josh attended there, the
yeah.
FCA. So Teresa, now Teresa, who does FCA at West Virginia,
Yes.
was
Yeah.
doing it with Josh and still does it now. I mean, she's not only is she leading these Bible studies with our friends,
Yeah.
but she's now my own daughter is going to her
Yeah.
FCA. I
So
mean,
again, to me, this is about the connection that you have with people, not necessarily the building.
yeah,
These are
that's right.
this is people coming together, not necessarily
Yep,
the building.
you're exactly right. Yep,
Community, and
yep,
on this podcast, I talk a lot about community. That's kind of something that we've really gotten away from. We've kind of gotten away from each other and
yeah,
community. And I think
yep,
that's what is missing for a lot of people, is that community aspect of it. And it was for
yeah,
me, like, I am not feeling what I'm supposed to be feeling because there wasn't a
yeah.
community around it. It was like, check,
Yes,
did
just going
that.
right.
And then I'm going to go do some really shady stuff,
Yep,
the
yep. And
day
I think
after.
that's totally. I was just talking to a little girl from our high school group that we do here, our Young Life group with Coley's friends, um, about hypocrisy. I think they say is the
Yes.
number one factor that keeps kids
Yeah.
away from church as they come into their own faith when they're older, is because they see all these people on Sunday be
Yeah.
one way, and then they're different outside of
Right.
that hour at church. They
Right.
don't live like that all the time, and
Yeah.
so kids just especially see that, and they're
They're
like, well,
not
why would I
dumb.
believe,
No,
yeah,
they're
why would
not
I
dumb.
believe in all this you're telling me, but you go live like that.
Yeah.
So
And it's usually the people that are supposed to be in leadership positions and you're supposed to be
yes,
looking up to. And I think that's where, for me, it took me so long to feel that, is because I was seeing the adults in my life,
yep,
certain adults, not all of them.
yeah,
You're you're telling me one thing and then you're doing another. I've just
right,
it never clicked. But
right, right,
again, like,
100%.
similar to Kevin, I think it takes that aha kind of
Yes,
I
right,
need a
like,
I there's this hole that needs to be filled kind of moment, for sure.
yes.
For sure.
And like you said, you can fill it with all the things, you can fill it with
Ego,
drink. Yep,
alcohol,
yep.
anything.
Drugs, like the high school kids always talk about, whether it's
Yeah.
vaping, sex, parties, girls
Right.
and boys, whatever you're trying to fill this hole, but you find that you usually
It
actually
doesn't get filled.
every no, and for we believe there's only one way to fill that hole, and that's with a relationship with Christ,
Mhm.
and so that's kind of how we base everything,
Right.
in our life now. And that was with that funny moment at Houston,
Oh yeah,
you
talk
know,
about it. Okay,
yes,
because
because
how did it
that was really that was really such a big part of it. Was like, I always remember Kevin telling me, and this was something he learned from Sean when he first got into ministry really early on, was all these stories in the Bible of like Jesus and just meeting people where they are and showing up. Like, you don't have to have some profound message. The Holy Spirit will do that. You
Right.
don't have to have the right words or all the right things, but just show up.
Right.
Just show up and love your people. And that was such a big moment for us, that you allowed us to walk through that season of life with you. What a privilege for us. I mean, what a privilege. That we got to pray for you, that we you trusted us to stay steadfast in prayer, and for you, what a privilege that was, that
Mm.
your friendship means more to us than any job ever could. That doesn't mean that we are so grateful to the University of Houston. We will never
Sure.
wear opposing team colors. Now thank God you're at Utah. Praise God, we can just wear
You could
red.
just wear red and wear
But I think for that particular moment, it was like we thought it was important that you
yeah.
knew our allegiance was with you, because that is greater than any of that either
Right.
school, either whatever, like, and to
And
know what you were. Yeah.
I think it would have been different had it not been the situation too. Because again, like
Yes.
we are, so many of us are on opposing Big 12 teams. I
Yes.
mean, think
Yes.
about all of us
Yes.
that have moved on. We are all
Yes.
opponents now, right? So
Yes.
I think it
Yeah.
would have been different had it been a normal situation, a normal season, a normal time. But
Yes.
your statement it was, it was solid in the fact that you knew what we were dealing with.
Yes.
You knew what, like, behind the scenes was the craziness, and just there is no word for what happened that season. There is no word for it. Um,
No.
but it was just you being solid in, we love you, we're here for you. And you didn't even have to say a word. I wasn't even at that game, but I
Yeah.
watched it and I could see you guys back there. And I just thought, like, who does that?
Yes.
Who does
Weirdos.
that?
I know. I
Not
know.
in this world and not in this
No.
business. Nobody does that. So again,
Yeah.
that is something that moved me beyond words. I know it did him. And
Awesome. Yeah. We love you.
it stuck with our entire family. And I know it didn't make your kids super comfortable, which was really funny because they're like,
So
what do we
funny.
wear? What do we do?
Yes, because we have, like, obviously, like, the basketball staff here are friends, like,
Sure.
and
Sure.
some of them knew like the
Yeah.
backstory, and were
Everybody
totally,
knew.
yes, yes, like they, but even some of our, like, football guys who were at the
Yeah.
game, they were like just
What are you
confused.
doing?
Yes, it was so, like, comical in a sense, um, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just again, right, goes back to those just like relationship. I joke too with our friend Nikki, her son Brady wears his Houston stuff to school, to University High School in Morgantown. He wears that more than anything, and
Because
and
again, it's about people.
yes, and he's like in his school pictures with whatever. And we were laughing one time,
So
Coach
funny.
Brown,
Yeah.
in Morgantown, now his sweet
Yeah.
wife Brooke picked Brady up maybe for something, or maybe Lauren, one of them, and they had Houston stuff on.
Like,
And
what are
just
you doing?
yes, like, boy, come on. But then, like you said, it all comes around. Like, now our
Yeah.
daughter Mia is working for
Works
the
for him.
Browns at
Yeah.
West Virginia. Like, it's
Connected.
really, yep, it's
Yeah.
about people,
And you never know. And this is something Amanda and I talked about last week. You never know when
yes,
you'll end up on a staff together because, again,
that's
this
right.
world is very small.
Yeah,
The coaching world is very small. And a lot of the times, people, like, staffs will break up because of
yep,
one thing or another, fired, move on, whatever it is, it's part of the
yep,
business.
yeah,
You could end up together again somewhere else, right?
yeah,
Where you're working, on the same staff or at the same university, at least maybe in a different sport or whatever. But those relationships are incredibly important. The way you treat people is incredibly important.
yes,
So
yep.
yeah,
It's
I mean,
so,
it's
yeah.
kind of a higher message. And I think maybe that's one of the lessons, like I was talking about, what are some of the lessons that we can learn? And this really comes down to, how you treat people.
Yes, how you treat people. You're
Yeah.
exactly right,
Right.
and for and that's exactly what, like, being a light in this profession is all about, right? Like, you don't
Right.
have to go around Bible beating, throwing my Bible at people. Like, that's not what God called us to do. We're just supposed to be a light, be set apart,
Right.
look different than the world does, and be constant and
Right.
steadfast, and in serving others with love. That's what Kevin said. He looks at with his players. Like, my job is essentially to serve them, right? Like, I'm here to
He
take
strengthens
care of
them
them.
in two different ways,
Yes,
right? So
yes,
both
right. Yep,
physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, all of that. I mean,
yes,
he kind of
right.
runs the gamut. So how does
Totally.
that, like, how does
Speaking of
he
Kevin,
pour?
I'm like, he just
Oh, hey,
walked in the door. Yes, okay.
Kev.
Okay.
We're bragging about you.
Yes, right. He's, yeah, blushing. No.
So, how do these athletes know that he's kind of this place to go, this beacon that they can get support, or, you don't wear a sign, how?
Yes, right? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I think like we talked about with even, say high school kids or our own children watching the way that you live your life. I think for him, um, he feels really called to um, like in leadership, right? Like if you're going to be in leadership and claim to know God, right, you're called to these higher standards, right? So he really takes seriously that he, chooses to behave in a fashion that is representative of God, so when
Right.
they're watching him handle himself, um they see God
Him
without even
saying
maybe,
it. Yeah.
yes, without him saying it, and then
Yeah.
they just yeah,
I'm sure they're probably naturally drawn to him in the sense that he's kind of like this, and I hate the word safe space, but he's kind of a
yes,
safe space. Like, you
yes,
know,
yes, for sure, for sure.
yeah.
And it's funny. I remember this one instance. This was maybe a couple years ago, and they were doing this like competition day. Like, so they had like two broke our guys down into two teams. They were competing like in these kind of game-ish type of things,
Yeah.
and one team had won, the other team whatever, and he kind of was in the mix and kind of got shoved from the back, and he didn't know who it was or if it was even done on purpose, but he kind of turned around and not he didn't shove the guy back, but he just
Right.
like kind of who
Flinched at
somebody
him.
pushed me or fussed at him, and then when he got back to the office later, he called and he's like, babe, feel so convicted about that. Like I didn't even know the situation. I just went so fast to like who pushed me,
Right.
type of thing. And he's like, I'm like, all right, well then why don't you go to the kid and tell him that and ask him for forgiveness, like he's like, huh? I'm like, yeah, like what better model of Christ than to ask your own player for forgiveness of
Yeah.
not handling something how you would desire, and I think it's like those little things that he'll do that like just change the way that they're like, who the heck is the guy asking? Like, I'm sorry I handled myself that way, because we're all gonna obviously handle ourselves in a way that we unfavorable sometimes. Like we're not perfect, we're sinners, and so we're gonna all have times where we mess up. And I think that's the part where they really draw to him is like, hey, I'm just like you. I'm just like you. I'm not, we're
Accountability is something that
yeah,
I think people, like, okay, say like you're parenting your child. If you as a parent can never say, I'm sorry I overreacted, or I'm
yes,
sorry I, whatever the mistake is, how are they
yeah,
going to then learn to communicate their, that it's okay to apologize or
yep,
mess up, or always
absolutely.
have this fear of I cannot, I have to be perfect. I can't screw up. I'm in charge. I'm the
Yep.
leader. I can never make mistakes.
Yeah.
But leadership is also being able to say, I screwed up. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Again, like you always say, like that human side,
Yeah.
or like,
I could have done better, or I would have
yes,
done this differently, or
that's right.
there's
That's
so
right.
many kind of
Yeah.
goes to those lessons again, like
Yes. Back to
in
like,
life, in sports, and
yep.
again, which I never appreciated when I was younger because I didn't care,
No.
but
Right. Right. But
but
now
now
you're,
like you see it, it's in your face every single day.
yep.
Um,
Every day.
kind of these
Yep.
big, huge life lessons. But
For sure. For sure. And
yes,
like we said too, because our girls group is so tight. I think because of this profession, you're like so tight so fast because
yeah,
it's so it's so intense, it's so volatile, it's so like emotionally whatever,
Yes.
so you're so, like you said, you're so high when you win, so low when you lose. But
Hmm.
so you have these really intimate relationships with each other, and you're
Right.
walking through something that not everyone understands,
Correct.
um which is a lot of times we talk to our kids a lot about that. They're like, well, why is the fan cursing the staff because we're losing, like,
Right.
and just why this, why that, right?
Yeah. Right.
A million whys, right? But just that, yeah,
You're coming from it. You when you're in like that side of it, it's very different than being on the fan side of it. And so it's kind of hard to
right,
understand each other sometimes. Um,
right,
and
exactly, yep,
helping your kids understand that it's different, right?
yes,
That our
right,
allegiance is to people, theirs
yep,
is to the team, like their colors and the
right,
team and the traditions and whatnot.
right,
And so that's where their investment is. Our investment is in the people, right?
right,
And so you
right,
get very offended when, the people are getting attacked,
yes, yes, right,
whereas the fans are getting offended that you're not giving them what they want. So you have to
yes.
see it from both sides and understand that, okay, yes, this isn't pleasant and nobody wants to be dealing with this, but we also are looking through two different lenses.
Yes, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
And to like remembering that, we love the fans, and we need the fans, that
Correct.
I would, we would talk to Kevin, and my brother would talk about this or whatever, and then of course with the kids. But I'm like, you never know if that one fan who's yelling like crazy spent his whole paycheck on this ticket, and making him yell about anything makes him feel alive. So
Yeah.
give it to him.
Let them
Like
have it.
whatever. Yes, like maybe that guy's at this game because his, mom's in the hospital with an illness, and this is the only thing that makes him feel
Forget for
alive.
a minute.
That's
Yeah.
right. Forget for a minute or whatever, right? Then give
Right.
it to him. So
Yeah.
kind of like to put those blockers on of like, you know, look at it more like they're passionate about this, whether
Yeah.
it's good or
And you
bad,
can't exist. One cannot exist without the
Yes,
other.
that's right.
So,
Yes,
it's
totally.
kind of this symbiotic relationship that doesn't always feel
Yes,
healthy, but
yes, right. Yeah,
right,
for sure.
right,
And again, it just builds that resilience and
right.
kind of and compassion and different things in
Sure,
kids. That's unique. And sometimes it can feel like a hindrance. We would laugh with this
sure.
newest coaching transition. The kids would, of course, we built this wonderful community here in Houston. This is our sixth season,
Yeah.
going in at Houston. And so like all of our kids at school, all their teachers and everything, are you guys getting fired? And then a couple teachers were like kind enough to ask first, like, is it okay if we ask the kids, are you getting fired? I'm like,
Like,
it's
can we not
fine.
stress
They
them out
think,
any more than they
yeah,
already are?
yeah. But I'm like, they think to them, they think getting fired is like a very normal occurrence. Like they know every, December, January, like probably somebody that they love is
Is
like,
gonna lose their job. Yeah,
yeah. And
it's the
so,
most bizarre
yeah,
way to exist.
yeah,
So one of our good friends, so Meg Butler,
yes,
so
yes, yes,
Deshaun
yes.
Butler's wife, who was on our staff
Yep.
last year, said to me one time, she's like, "Are you even a real coach if you haven't been fired once or twice?"
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
touche.
Yes, right. Yes, it's almost like funny, like you said, like,
It's almost comical. I mean, you
yes,
don't want to make light of it because
no,
obviously
not at
it
all.
like turns your world upside down for a little bit, but
Yes,
if you cannot find some sort of humor in it, it will again, it will
yes,
floor you. It will
yes,
absolutely
yes,
floor you because
yes,
you
it
know what
will.
is going on the inside. There is not a single person in that building who is not putting their all into
Right.
making this. There are so
Yeah.
many like intangibles that you cannot control,
Yep.
that you wish you could just like scream to the rooftops like this is what I can't control right now,
Yes,
but
yes,
you
yep.
can't. But again, if you can't find humor in it, then again
Yeah.
it'll
Yes,
will
it
floor
totally
you.
will, because
Yeah.
obviously the like reality is that it's that part of time of the year is really
Yeah.
hard and sad for each sport that has whatever, wherever
Yeah.
their off season lies. It's every year it's really hard,
Because
for
chances are
so
you
many
do know
people, and
somebody on
inevitably,
another staff that's getting life
yeah,
up. It's not just your own.
right,
There's
right.
somebody on
Yep.
another staff
Yep.
that likely
Yep.
that
Exactly.
is world is being turned upside down.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's
For
right.
sure.
Turned upside down.
Well,
Right.
I mean,
They don't
when
know if they'll get paid again. Yep.
right when you guys were going through your coaching change last year, I mean, we were on our group chat constantly checking on you every day. Like, do you have any news? What are you guys gonna do? Like, we're
Yeah.
trying not to stress. We had all these side texts
Yeah.
going on. Like, have you heard anything? Have you heard
Yeah.
anything? Like, are
Have
they
you heard?
good? Because we
Yep.
didn't want to bombard, but
I know.
you know, it's like this,
Exactly. And
it's a support
yep.
group more than anything.
It is. It's a totally sorority, it's fraternity. Yeah. But it's like you said, again, I feel like that's maybe why too, um, you've seen so many of these people that you love go through
Yeah.
those hard transitions. And so when they do succeed in like in the professional like
Right.
terms, when they have a great season or whatever,
It's a
that's why
really
you
big
are
deal.
so, yes, you're so
Yeah.
happy for them. That's
Yeah.
that, again, we, some of our great friends are at Miami right now, the Dawsons. They used to be
Yeah.
at West Virginia with us
Yes.
and Houston with us. We love Shannon and Chelsea and their girls, and to watch them have this great season. Nobody
Yeah.
knows that he went through his mom's cancer stuff, and
Exactly.
nobody knows this and that and that, but like it's amazing, right, to
Yeah.
celebrate their success because you've seen how hard they've worked and what they've gone through.
Yeah.
So again, it's right, those,
It's
you
amazing.
just, so yeah, the relationship part is even like with your own kids, with moving in the thick of it right now.
Yeah.
You're like, they could call any of our kids, like
Yes.
our coffee group kids, in 3 seconds and feel like they had,
Yeah.
like siblings to rally around them, that they weren't alone. And that's the blessing of
Absolutely.
this business,
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's the blessing. I mean, our one great friend Angela, we laugh because we wanted our girls Mia's to be friends. So we're like, we're gonna force them to be friends. No, but now they're like, one
Sisters.
flew
They're
across the
practically
country.
sisters.
Yes, like to
Yeah.
move one into college and then move the other one into college, and they do it all together. And
Which is funny because
it's
again, they are both at rival schools, KU and
yes,
West Virginia, which is
yes,
hilarious. I mean,
right.
even more funny.
Yes,
So, but
it's
again,
so,
when you're coming at it from a different lens, they're still very supportive of one another. And I think the fun part is
yeah,
that you can poke at each other on rival day, just
yes,
like our
yes.
coffee group blew up our when Houston beat Kansas State because
Oh
both
yes, yes,
Angela and I are alums of Kansas State. But of
yeah,
course, we're like,
yeah,
we're supporting our great friends because this is a huge deal. It was a huge upset. So again, it's kind of one of
yeah,
these just fun little circles that it's
yeah,
more about people than
yes.
anything. So
Yeah, yeah, it's really just, it's really great. There are hard things, right? Like there is
sure.
with any profession, but I always try to
Yeah.
remember, like, we're not curing cancer, or we're not standing on the front lines, and
Nothing we
so
do
you
is
feel
important.
it change,
No.
right,
Other than how
so
we
it
treat
feels
people within the business, nothing
right,
that these guys do is of any importance in the grand
right,
scheme of things.
you
And
know
I know that's crazy
right,
to say, but you're entertaining. You are entertainers. You are,
yes,
well, for the fan base, but you are also like growing young men and women as coaches.
yes,
So, what, again,
yes,
looking through two totally different lenses, what I'm doing really doesn't mean much if I'm not being a good person, if I'm not giving back, if I'm not pouring something good into people, what I do is meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless.
yes. Yes, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. We're like, yeah, if we don't use all that we've been given to, you know, glorify God and do it to the best that we can, then we're not,
Yeah.
then we're not doing it the right way, we think.
Yeah.
So we're just so grateful that that we've been put in a, position to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
So
you've
it's,
you've done it, you've done it masterfully. You've worked
yes,
in my
no,
life
not,
and all of our
oh my
friends'
God,
lives and
no,
beyond. So
no.
I'm
So
grateful for your friendship and I'm grateful that you got on here to talk about all this
yes,
stuff too. We've been talking about it for like 2 years, I think, trying to get
right.
you on here.
Exactly.
So
Such a thank you so much for having me. I'm like,
yes.
yeah, we're just so proud of you and just the way that you've used your platform with health and your own stories to just really you seriously are a prime example of like and this inspires me like uh um you want to have a podcast, go have one. You want to get into you want to like get into like health, like
Just do
holistic health,
it.
go do it. Like, why not? Right?
Yeah.
Like, you're an amazing, between photography and, just all your things.
The one
I
thing
just
you
love how,
cannot do with me is put a label on me. I don't
no,
think.
I just love it, like, I love how, so many people, including myself, would be like, I wish I did this, or I wish I did this, and you do it. So it's awesome. We're just excited we get to be like on your blip on your journey and
Oh.
your way. So it's pretty awesome. We love you guys so much.
Well, Jess, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming
Of
on.
course.
If you have any recommendations for other guests that I need to talk to, let me know.
Yes. Oh, for sure. I certainly will. For sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
so I
Okay.
wish you the
Thank you.
best of
Thank you.
season at Houston,
Yes.
and the Heat
Awesome.
and any
Yes.
other teams that I need to be cheering for.
Like too many teams to base
I
our, I'm
know.
like, and last thing, I'm like right now, because I feel like we're in this crazy season, right? Where
Yeah.
our
Where they
senior son's
overlap.
playing.
Football
Yes.
and basketball. Yeah.
Yeah, and football
This
and
is like
basketball
the
overlap, and
overlap
Cole's
season.
in the high school playoffs right now with
Yeah.
Texas high school playoffs, and so it's just like, but it's awesome. We wouldn't want to be doing anything else. Yeah.
Well, I can't see you doing anything else, friend.
I know, yes. Of
Well, thank you again. Give Kevin and
course.
the kids my best, and I love you.
Yes. Josh too. Okay, love you guys.
Okay.
Okay, bye.